Good day, everybody. It's Andrew here, and welcome back to my channel. We have another huge update on stimulus, specifically the idea of doing a $2,000 stimulus check for seniors in this next stimulus package, and exactly what the main factor at play is, which is going to decide whether or not these stimulus checks for seniors are included in this package, whether it's $2,000, $1,400, or $800. All of these numbers have been thrown out there by various groups as to how large that stimulus check could be. So let's discuss the details in this video. But before we do, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I also have a second channel, so do me a huge favor. Click on the link that's in the description of this video. Subscribe to my second channel. I'm going to be giving away a stimulus check on that channel just as a thank you for supporting my work. So let's recap exactly what I'm talking about when I say $2,000 stimulus check for seniors. At this point, most of you know that Bernie Sanders is trying to include a stimulus check for seniors in this stimulus package, and his reason for doing so is saying that seniors have extra medical expenses that they need this stimulus check to pay for. And we assume that this includes SSI and SSDI as well. We don't have that confirmed yet, but usually anything that involves seniors or Social Security is extended to SSI and SSDI as well. Well, then President Biden came out and said this stimulus check could be as small as $800. So on the one hand, that was bad because he was saying it could be smaller than Bernie Sanders had hoped. On the other hand, it was good because President Biden was acknowledging that they are trying to include a stimulus check for seniors in this stimulus package. Well, then the Senior Citizens League, an advocacy group for seniors, came out and said that no, this stimulus check should be at least $1,400 because inflation has been so bad, and some groups are even pushing to make it as large as $2,000. Now, quite frankly, $2,000 is the minimum that I truly believe that seniors and those who are disabled deserve, not just need, but deserve throughout this crisis. But on top of that, a lot of groups are saying that it's probably going to be closer to $1,000, right? But if we're lucky, it'll come in at $2,000. But what is the main factor that, one, is going to decide whether or not that stimulus check is included at all, and two, how large that stimulus package will be? Well, the main factor at play is what the Congressional Budget Office says the overall cost of this package is going to be. Now, let me explain. This article is titled, "Moderate Democrats Expect CBO Score and White House Cost Analysis of Spending Package to Match Up." So, the CBO is the Congressional Budget Office, and they are a nonpartisan group in the federal government which tells you, okay, this is how much this stimulus package will cost, and this is how much of it is going to be paid for via taxes and things of that nature. So, moderate Democrats have said the CBO, when they release their guidance on what this package is going to be costing and whether or not it's going to be fully paid for, is going to be the main factor as to whether or not they vote to approve this stimulus package. So, President Biden is saying that this stimulus package should be fully paid for by taxing the rich. And now, once the CBO confirms that either by the end of this week or early next week, moderate Democrats have said they will fully be on board to approve that stimulus check package if the CBO confirms what President Biden is saying. If the CBO confirms that this stimulus package will be fully paid for. Now, moderates completely expect the CBO to agree with President Biden. It's just a formality, and they want to make sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed before they vote to fully approve this package. So, what does this mean for the $2,000 stimulus check for seniors, and what does this mean for the stimulus check for seniors in general? Well, a couple of scenarios could happen. One, if the CBO comes back and says, hey, this stimulus package is fully paid for, everything looks okay, then that's a really good sign for stimulus checks for seniors that those could be included as long as they're paid for. Now, an even better scenario would be if the CBO comes back and says, not only is this stimulus package going to be fully paid for, there's actually going to be extra money coming in from all of the taxes they're going to create on those who are wealthy in this country. Now, if that happens, there's a chance that people like Bernie Sanders and President Biden could say, hey, if we have extra money left over from taxing the rich, we could increase the stimulus check for seniors all the way to $2,000, which a lot of Democrats want to do. Remember, Representative Jayapal, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, they all wanted $2,000 stimulus checks. So it's possible that if the Congressional Budget Office comes back this week and says there is actually, not only is the stimulus package going to be paid for, but there's actually extra funding left over from taxing the rich, they could actually increase that stimulus check all the way to $2,000. Now, I'll be honest, that is an optimistic outcome. That would be the best case scenario. But honestly, I think it's the scenario that needs to happen. As seniors in our country have paid into the tax system their entire lives, the least of which they deserve is a $2,000 stimulus check. And the same goes for those who are disabled in this country. They deserve to live in a life of dignity. And guys, let me know in the comments if you agree. So all of this comes down to the CBO, which is the Congressional Budget Office, and what they say this package is going to cost and how much funding taxing the rich is going to create. Now, Bernie Sanders wants a stimulus check for seniors in this package, so there's a good chance it will end up in this stimulus package, especially when we have Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and President Biden who have all said that they support including a stimulus check for seniors in this stimulus package. Now, with that said, there's still a chance, like Congress always happens to do, that they might push this stimulus check into 2022 and include it in the next stimulus package instead of this one. Now, we hope that doesn't happen, but it is a possibility. But at the end of the day, the main factor at play when it comes to stimulus checks for seniors is the Congressional Budget Office and what they say is going to be paid for or not when it comes to taxing the rich. So this article is titled 2,000 Pages and Pronto. Budget scorekeepers are under pressure. Now, the reason they're saying that the CBO is under pressure is because we're waiting. Everybody is waiting on the CBO to give us their score before the stimulus package is approved. The stimulus package will not be approved until the CBO gives their score, and they have to go through this $2,000 stimulus package, which quite frankly is going to take a couple of weeks, right? So at this point, they've been going through the package for about a week, and we're hoping to have the results either by the end of this week or early next week, at which point President Biden said they hope to get it approved in the House on the week of the 15th and approved in the Senate shortly after. So we should have a lot of updates to come as the CBO is set to release the results in the next couple of days. So don't forget to subscribe, and I will keep you posted. Now, with that said, the physical stimulus plan was just approved, and the White House just gave an update as far as what's included in this package, the effects it's going to have on the U.S. economy, and they also fielded questions on the stimulus check package and what they expect to happen next as negotiations continue with moderate Democrats to try and get that stimulus check package done soon. So there's two stimulus packages, the physical stimulus plan and the stimulus check plan, aka the Build Back Better Act. So the physical stimulus plan was approved, and in this press conference, the White House talks about what's included in the package and how it's going to affect the country, and then they're going to answer questions as to whether or not moderate Democrats are going to get on board to approve the stimulus check package quickly. So let's take a look, see what the White House had to say, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below.
Hi, everybody. Wow. This is all for Pete. I know. It's all for, we like to call him Secretary Mayor Pete. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see everybody. Joining us today, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who, surprise, surprise, is here to talk about the president's bipartisan infrastructure deal. I don't want to steal the secretary's thunder, but as you all know, the once-in-a-generation bill is the largest ever federal investment in public transit, clean energy transmission, and electric vehicle infrastructure, and clean drinking water. It delivers for the American people by rebuilding our roads, railroads, and rail cars, bridges, buses, ports, and airports, all while creating good paying union jobs. Go ahead.
When you look at the situation with the vote on the bipartisan infrastructure the other night, there were a handful of progressives who voted against it. They explained their reasons. Going into Build Back Better, there is no margin among Democrats, really just a couple of votes that you could possibly lose in the House, none in the Senate. What is the strategy when you know you're more than likely not going to have any Republican support to cover for that, when it is possible there will be changes made by the Senate that may not be in the interests shared by the Progressive Caucus tightening up some of the provisions within that. So how will the president approach that, trying to keep progressives on board when 6 very prominent progressives voted against the first piece of the Biden agenda?
You know, Kelly, I'll say this. You know, we're going to approach it the same way we approached the American Rescue Plan, right? Which people thought we weren't going to get that done. We're going to approach it the same way we approached the bipartisan infrastructure framework, which folks said we wouldn't make that happen. And so right now we're 2 for 2. All right, and so we believe that this is going to get done. The president is committed to this. This is part of his agenda, right? The economic policy agenda that you hear us, we say this all the time, that 81 million people voted for last year, just a year ago. And so these are popular components of his economic policies when you look at both the BIF and the bipartisan Build Back Better Act. And so we're going to continue to work with Congress. We're going to continue to work with the Speaker, continue to work with Leader Schumer, and have those conversations across the aisle to get it done, because this is something that the American public, the American people need. This is once in a generation, investment. We're talking about child care. We're talking about elder care. We're talking about making sure that medical expenses are not your whole entire check when you think about pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, we're talking about I said child care already, but all of these things, climate change, right? When you put those 2 bills together, it's historical in a way that's going to get us to where we need to go to fighting climate change in a real way. So these are so important to the president. We're going to continue to work on it. But we got American Rescue Plan done. We got bipartisan infrastructure done when people didn't think we would.
Do you expect the president will add sort of to his daily briefing the update on what's happening with infrastructure projects and things, so that there will be an inflow of information about what these projects are in a practical sense? Will there be a sort of an in-house, inside the White House, sort of central clearinghouse for this, since it does deal with many departments of the government?
Well, as you know, this is nothing new to the president. When he was vice president, he led the Recovery Act, pardon me, and so he knows how this is done. He knows how implementation works, and so knowing this president, he's going to want to know every component of how it's going, and so we're going to stay on top of it. It's going to be key in order for the American people to feel this. This has to be implemented, so we're going to make sure that happens. With that, I'll turn it over to Secretary Buttigieg. This isn't his first time at the podium, as you all know. I think this might be his 3rd time, but it's his first time joining us as a father. So on a personal note, congratulations to you and Chasten on the birth of Gus and Penelope, and the news last week, which we really thought that was wonderful, great news. And so with that, I'm really happy to introduce you. Here we go.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you, Corrine, and thanks for the chance to address you. We are so thrilled, so excited. When our communications team presents me with a copy, I usually cross out the word excited because I think it's overused, and I often rub out the exclamation points because it's not always my style, but we are excited with an exclamation point about what we're going to be able to deliver. We are so thankful to everybody who's played a role in this, thanks to members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. President Biden's historic bipartisan infrastructure deal will now become the law of the land. And it couldn't come at a more urgent time. I can tell you in the 10 months that I've been in this job, I have traveled the country and seen the state of our infrastructure firsthand. I saw mesh nets hung under bridges to catch pieces of concrete that fall off from time to time, century-old tunnels corroded by seawater that hundreds of thousands of people depend on every day, roads where community members are installing memorials to lives lost in preventable traffic crashes, highways that have cut communities in two. Infrastructure is so elemental to our society that when it's not there to serve us in the right way, all of us are impacted. But when it is, when it's strong, every community, large and small, rural and urban, privileged and marginalized, every community feels the benefits. When combined with the Build Back Better Act, the bipartisan infrastructure deal, which collectively I like to think of them as the big deal, an answer to the New Deal or the Square Deal before that, they're going to create a generation of good union jobs. They're going to make historic investments in equity and in the fight against climate change. They're going to make sure that America can compete and win in the decades ahead. This is the largest investment in roads, bridges, and highways since the creation of the interstate highway system, including the largest investment in our bridges ever, so that we can avoid devastating closures and disruptive collapses like we've seen, including what we saw in Tennessee and Florida and far too many other places. It's also the largest investment in public transit ever, with funding that will expand service to communities of all sizes, including improvements for seniors and for people with disabilities. It's going to replace thousands of outdated buses with clean zero-emission vehicles and aging rail cars with state-of-the-art new ones. It's the largest investment in passenger rail since the creation of Amtrak itself, and transformative impacts in traffic safety will be achieved. And it's going to strengthen our supply chain by improving our ports, our airports, and our freight rail. It's going to dramatically increase funding for major projects. Every year we have our discretionary programs, RAISE and Infra, where we support projects that are vitally important for local economic development and the national supply chain. We're going through the current round of applications for RAISE right now. And for every dollar that we have to give out, there are about 10 in impressive applications coming in. This allows us to grow those programs that we can use in very direct ways to address the issues of our time. I'll give you an example from the Infra round of grants that happened earlier this year. We announced funding for a project in Georgia. It's an inland port to help goods move onward from the port of Savannah. The idea is to create a new 300-plus mile freight connection between the seaport and the inland port that makes it faster to get the goods out of the port and then sort them so that they can get on the way to shelves. But like I said, for every good project like this, there are many more that are worthy but that we can't support. This helps us to change that. Later today, I'll be headed to Glasgow, and there look forward to discussing how this legislation can help ensure that transportation, which is the biggest sector contributing greenhouse gases in our economy, can be a big part of the solution. We've seen so many impacts of climate change on American lives, on our transportation systems themselves, and that's part of why this plan includes funding to put people to work electrifying our power grid, make our infrastructure more resilient to extreme weather, and build out a national network of 500,000 electric vehicle chargers and expand public transit, as I mentioned earlier, which is also a huge part of the climate solution. And of course, there's a lot beyond our transportation elements of this: lead pipes, cleaning up pollution, broadband, and more. But what all of these investments have in common is that they will create jobs. Pipe fitters to replace those pipes, electricians to install those EV charging stations, auto workers to build the cars that plug into them. We need mechanics maintaining transit vehicles, drivers operating them, construction workers rebuilding those roads and bridges. And most of those jobs will be available whether you have a college degree or not, which is why the president often talks about this as a blue-collar blueprint for American competitiveness. And it's a generational investment in every sense of the word, something that means a lot more to me now as a new father, because this is how we do right by the next generation before it's too late. So thanks again, and eager to take some questions.